Hello and welcome everybody to another match here. We have Howitzer in the solo lane here, and we start off pretty standard. We're going to go with a Magician Crest and 2 health potions, and we are going to make our way to lane. So, some people may not think of Howitzer as a good solo lane pick, but I disagree. I actually think he's going to be a staple solo laner in Predecessor. I mean, he just is so good in my eyes, and I'll tell you why. He does a lot of damage. How he poops out damage. And not only that, he has great peel. The slow mines is one form of peel. That's a bit of a lesser way to peel for your other teammates. But his knockback mine is insanely good, in utilizing that effectively can easily turn fights. Because some people may not think of it this way, but the tooltip will only tell you that it knocks back, but when they get knocked back, it's basically a stun. There's nothing they could do during that time. So aside from it, dislocating them, and if you're skillful enough, you can move them exactly to where you want them to go. They're, for that time, they're stunned. And if you have a skillful enough teammate or a ranged character, you can hit them in the air. You can hit them with abilities in the air while they're powerless to do anything. So I do think that he is going to be a staple in the solo lane, as well as mid, of course. So, in this phase, it's pretty standard. We're up against a Steel here, played by Wire Angel, who's a tester and a very strong player. And I know that I have the range advantage here, and I'm trying to just bully him as much as I possibly can. I don't want him to get any farm at all. And unfortunately, we're not really exchanging here that efficiently, and we're also missing abilities, which... It was our first Howie game, which is expected. Oh, just a disclaimer. I didn't learn how Howitzer's ult worked until the end of the game. So every single time I pop his ult, which for those of you who may not know, Howie floats in the air, and his Q, which is like his spell missile, because his auto attacks are missiles too, but the spell missile goes on a much lower cooldown during the ult. And when basically the entire game, I was under the impression that you just pop the ult and you hold left click and it changes his missiles to the more powerful spellcasting missiles, but it was a big mistake, and I miss out on doing so much damage as a result, unfortunately. So we were able to shove the lane to our opponent's tower and then take green buff, which is a nice chunk of XP, gold, and healing. I missed a missile there, and the Steel, that was a very... I think that was an exchange in his favor. Well, another hint or tip that I think people should recognize... Now, excuse me. I don't know if you guys have ever played a game like a first-person shooter that has rocket launchers. With Howitzer's missile, what you want to do is aim at the ground next to them, because it does the same damage in the AoE where it explodes, so you really want to just hit the ground. The Steel goes in to try to kill us, and we blink away here, and we are able to turn that around there. If I didn't blink myself, he would have killed me with an auto attack. I was one hit away, and we also got lucky with the tower hitting him, which was enough to turn the tides. And I think that does a nice job showcasing exactly how much you can turn a fight in Predecessor. With the blink mechanic, it is amazing. Situations where you would be doomed and powerless to do anything in, because the blink mechanic exists, you can now outplay, or you could do a lot of things. I mean, it doesn't feel great when you gank and then, you know, you got them and then they just teleport away. But hopefully that means your teammate capitalizes on their blown teleport in the next 5 minutes. The steel did not want to let us back, which was smart. And we opt to go here for the Rod of Thirst. And the passive for Rod of Thirst is that whenever we deal damage, either ability or auto attack damage, we get a stack that helps mana regen, up to 4 stacks. And then eventually, once we evolve this item, the 4 stacks are going to give us, when you're at max stacks rather, it's going to give us 10 ability haste, which is very easy to get. The 4 stacks on this item is very, very easy to get. There's the Kallari wanting to gank us. He's still going through here. Yeah, so this game took place during the creator event that was held before the most recent stress test. However, it was essentially the same exact build, and you'll see in this game that people don't know how to react to Kallari. We got ulted on, and unfortunately we couldn't get away. That was a good ult by the steel. Now, people don't yet know how to play around Kallari, which is understandable since, you know, nobody really has experience. But Kallari is one of those heroes where if you don't react properly, you're going to get punished severely. And Kallari is a good snowball hero too. And what I mean by that is because Predecessor put its own spin on Kallari, not everybody knows how she works, and specifically her death mark. Her death mark is like the big scary aspect to her, in my opinion. I mean, aside from her ultimate, of course, but here we saw Steel try to be greedy and get this green buff to heal and get some XP, so we pick him off. But going back to what I was saying about Kallari, the way that her death mark works is she applies a debuff to you when she hits you with an ability, right? So Kallari will use the death mark ability and then possibly throw a dagger at you or come out of stealth and then apply the death mark. And another thing to note is Kallari has 2 charges for her dagger, so she can throw 2 daggers. And a very common way to apply death mark is, you know, a Kallari will pop death mark and hit you with a dagger, and then thus applying the death mark. And what happens is, I believe it's a percentage of all the damage taken while death mark is applied, in addition to your missing health at the end. So at the end, it'll pop for quite a bit of damage. So if you're like at 60% HP and then a Kallari comes from out of the shadows and you see the death mark above you, you just have to do your best to take as little damage as possible and disengage, because it's like, don't be fooled into thinking that 60% is going to be enough, because more than likely the Kallari's goal will be to get you down to like 20% and then have the death mark finish you off from all your missing HP. So this is something that I think the community is going to get better with once they accumulate a bit more experience. But when we get our hands on this game again, be ready for games where Kallari just goes off, as you'll see in this one. So so far we've done pretty well, all things considered. We're 2-1. We're farming fairly well. Here I try to, so Steel uses shield slam on us, and what I tried to dodge the shield slam with my own ultimate floating in the air. Oh, see, I'm just holding down left click here, and obviously the damage output is not good. I missed the mine here, which sucks too, because if I was more patient and I utilized the mine properly, I could have knocked the Kallari into the tower, which is unfortunate. So out of Epoch, Soul Bearer, and Time Flux Band, we opt to go for Time Flux Band. I really like this item. It's so cool how it works. For those of you who don't know what Time Flux Band does, when you it's active. When you activate it, it marks the spot where you activated it, and then in 5 seconds you're teleported back to that spot, with all of your cooldowns refreshed except for your ultimate. And I think a lot of the testers don't really like this item too much. They feel that it's weaker in comparison to the other ones. But I do feel that Time Flux Band has the potential to be overpowered, honestly. Because there is the downside of getting teleported back to where you marked it, and you know it's a very clear indication it's very clearly indicated, so the enemy team knows when you use it and when you're going to teleport back. And I actually punish myself for using it later in the match. We'll see that soon. But you know, think about it this way: say there's an enemy at your tier 1 tower and you come from behind them and you activate it. If they want to retreat back to the safety of their base, they have to run past your time flux mark. And so what you want to do is you just want to unload all your abilities in that time, and it could work out in that when you get teleported back to your original spot where you activated it, you'll be right there with them with all your abilities refreshed. So I think it's really good. We almost get Steel here. Unfortunately, he gets away, and I know he's waiting for me here, but I forget to use my blink. Watch what happens. See, imagine now, the Steel was just one ability away from dying. Imagine that right there, I blink out of his, so I dodge his ult, kill him with a missile, then it's a 1v1 situation with the Kallari. I could use my cooldowns, activate Time Flux Band and my ultimate, and then just go to town on him. I could have, honestly, I could be 4-2 instead of 2-3 here. But you know, again, this was my first game as Howie, and also I'm still new to the blink mechanic, but a lot of people don't like the blink mechanic, but I think it's incredible. The outplay potential it allows is insane, and I think that is the biggest reason why the skill ceiling for Predecessor is extremely high. And I cannot wait to see when there's going to be highlights of some players making insane plays with it. I can't wait. So we're back to farming. We have our Azure core, which I think every single time I don't exactly recall how the Azure cure stacks accumulate. You see at the left there, we have 136 stacks here. I think at 400 we get bonus ability haste. If I could be wrong about that, but it's going to take a little bit of time before that. The next item that we're going to opt for is combustion. We're already building towards it, and combustion is an interesting item in that moving accumulates stacks, and at 100 stacks with combustion, your next ability gets a bonus AoE damage. So the idea here is that I wanted to use it so I can have a superpowered missile. And here again, we shove the lane so we can safely secure green buff for that little bit of healing, gold, and XP. I'm not sure if that's the most efficient way to manage the lane. I just thought it was at the time of playing. And we're back to farming. We're in a pretty good spot here. Steel at 50% HP, and we can basically farm peacefully here. I should have a ward in the river, because if the Kallari comes, I'm in trouble. It's an easy kill. And I should have read the steel much better than I did. But here you see we teleport out of his ult, and then the time Flux Band teleports us back. And unfortunately I don't believe we finish him off here. It would be an easy kill if I understood how the ultimate worked, because I could just pop it and then just like shower missiles on him all the way back to his tower. And the Kallari comes, ganks us, applies the death mark, ults us, and that's a wrap. Even if he didn't... Oh yeah, no, so as you saw, and just like I mentioned before, the death mark, once it popped when we're that low, it's death. Nothing we could have... we could have done a bit more there, but we were not experienced enough to really do well. That was a horrible use of the ult, to be honest, but oh well. And just another thing to be wary of, when you do end up using Time Flux Band, be conscious of where you are facing, because when you teleport back to the same spot, you're going to be facing in the same exact duration that you activated it. And you want to, obviously in those in those situations where you need to react very quickly, you don't want to spend extra time having to orient yourself and be confused. You just want to do what you have to do. Here we're having a fight in the river. We got the Drongo there, and we're trying to kill the Kallari. The Kallari goes down, and here's Howie. And I could have killed him here, but I messed up. I used my slow mines too early. So we knock him, we get that, and if I put those 3 slow mines there, he would have went down. But unfortunately, I misplayed that. But all in all, a good exchange for my team, all things considered. It's pretty even at this point in the game. I feel at this point it could go either way. I shouldn't be in the mid lane right now. I should be in the left lane defending my own tower. But I was worried that they were going to take the tier 1 tower for free. So once I secure or push the lane a little bit, I'm rotating back to the left. I wish that the Gideon went back to his mid lane, because I think we end up losing the tier 1 tower in the mid needlessly. And one thing I realized here is, you see how I missed my mine there around the corner? You have to be fairly careful how you try to aim around corners and things, because oh, we're dead. The Kallari marker was there. I just didn't react quick enough. But yeah, just stealth into death mark into ult, and that's a kill. We were low enough to where that it was a pretty easy and effortless kill. And with a Kallari on the map, you basically have to be conscious that if you're like at 50% HP, there's a high probability that the Kallari is making her way over to you, because it's essentially a free kill if she's able to stealth and close a distance and you know, rotate through her abilities. But yeah, just aiming around corners and parts of the environment, yeah, just be extra careful because it doesn't go through. It's not like it doesn't easily go through. You have to try to aim it properly. I don't know if it's just that area where it's kind of like hard blocked, but we're back to farming here. And they secured, oh no, they didn't secure their next Fangtooth. I think are they going for Ore Prime? So Steel is in mid lane. We're gonna try to push for the tower here. I think that's the general rhythm of the game. Once as a solo laner you take down that tower, you go and rotate. And here I want to clear this wave as quick as possible so we can start getting some damage on this tier 2. And we're auto attacking. I choose to go on the high ground just to be a bit defensive. And we have Kallari visit us here, so he applied the death mark on us. We're still in a pretty good position. I don't really make good use of this time Flux Band. I could have unloaded all my abilities again, but even so, check this out. So here I should be raining missiles on him. Like we could actually kill him if we were using our ultimate properly. Again, so many missed opportunities this game. It pains me to watch the Howie ult not use any missiles. I'm sad, but honestly, it makes me that much more excited for when I am able to get my hands on Howie in the solo lane again. So since we're at about 68% HP, we're actually gonna back, and then we're gonna buy, and then we are going to go back out. We're going for Spellbinder here. I think that's the name of the item, and what it does is it applies a slow for 1 second upon hitting the enemy with an ability, which, as you can imagine, is quite good for Howie's rocket. And it could be even really, really nice if you do that on like one of your other abilities and you apply a slow to a few people. I think it's a really, really good item. It might even be worth it to get sooner. You know, I think if I wanted to go more damage oriented, I would go Combustion first and then into Spellbinder. Unfortunately, the Kallari gets away there. He just stealths. And now I use one rocket there, which is an improvement. A significant improvement compared to all my other ults, and now we die. The Narbash stun into, I believe, the Steel stun. We were just CC'd and burned down. So as you can see, the enemy Kallari is 15-3. And Kallari is definitely going to be one of those heroes where that is not an uncommon occurrence. But I think in time, I think people may complain Kallari is going to be strong at first. I don't think so. I think she's, like, from my experience, it makes sense why she, performed as well as she did in the games that we've seen thus far, but I do think she's not going to be like one of the stronger characters, but we'll see. I could be wrong. Yeah, Wire Angel typed something interesting in the chat that Gideon, enemies can teleport through Gideon's portals. So if, it's like a double-edged sword. If Gideon wants to help his teammate, he might end up actually hurting his teammate too, oddly enough. It depends on how the battle unfolds, but that's a cool tidbit of information you should be privy to. I guess the enemy, if the enemies go through the portal, they get slowed. You don't get slowed in ally ones. Ah, okay. So if you go through an enemy Gideon's teleport, you teleport through, but you also get slowed. Whereas your ally Gideon portals do not slow you. Pretty cool. I like how Predecessor has added its own flair to a lot of these abilities. Like, as you could even see, Howie, his ultimate is completely different. And his ultimate is, in my opinion, vastly superior to Paragon Howie's ultimate. Paragon Howie's ultimate, unfortunately, was never really good. You could sometimes get a kill. I mean, if you had a decker that was setting you up, that's one thing. But that wasn't a very common scenario. So here we're being chased by the Kallari. And this is not a fight that I want to take. Simply because even at this, it might seem like I have a lot of HP, but I started to gather at this point in the game that Kallari can easily burn through that, because the Kallari doesn't even have to try to outright kill you. It just gets you down with a death mark low enough to about like 15%, 20%, and the death mark's going to do the rest of the work. We managed to finish our Spellbinder here. And here, the Drongo blinks, and I was like, whoa, where did he go? That's gonna happen a lot too. The shield wall, the steel shield wall blocking the missile, very cool. Here I do a displacement mine to knock steel into the tower, and I pop my ult, and I don't really use missiles. I used one again. You could probably fit, I think, 3 to 4 missiles in one Howie ult, which if you're popping the ult, you should always fit that. And just one thing to note, guys, another hint for the Howie players out there, as I die, make sure your missile is not on cooldown when you pop your ultimate. Meaning, if you shoot a missile and it goes on the 6 to 8 second cooldown or whatever, and you pop your ultimate, it's not going to instantly go off cooldown, and you're going to have to waste precious time during your ultimate for that missile to go off cooldown. So what you would want to do instead is, say you fire the missile, you wait for that initial missile cooldown to finish, pop your ultimate, and then go to town. Because if you're waiting 6 seconds before you fire off your first missile during your ultimate, you basically wasted it. Just another tidbit of information, because that's going to save you at least like a death, or like a throne game. So here we're really far behind at this point. Earlier in the game it was fairly even, but with the Fangtooth advantage that they have and the Orb Prime that they had, they made good use of it. They killed our middle inhibitor and got our core down to 5%. So I mean, anybody can just come up and whack the core and win, basically. But again, this was like a creator event that we're just having fun. Here I make bad use of my time Flux Band. This is where I was telling you guys, like, I pop it right here because I figured I could like be in the air and do something cool, and obviously I was wrong. But yeah. So maybe if this was like a competitive match on, or like, some other scenario outside of the creator event, people would push to finish. They would just run up to the core and whack it. But I think everyone here was just having fun. We were just exploring, the capabilities of our characters. And here is our team's Kallari. Kallari seems like a really fun character to play, to be honest. GG! And that's the game. We were defeated, but as you can see, the enemy Kallari 17-4, and that's going to happen often, especially when we first start playing Predecessor. And I hope you guys enjoyed the solo Howitzer game. Plenty more where that came from. I have a few more games to upload for you. Hope you enjoyed, and if you like Predecessor content, please consider subscribing. I am going to be releasing more and more as time goes on. Everyone, thanks for watching. I'm JPie, and I'm signing off. Peace.